All right, so to recap, we're going to review the 3 ways we know how to solve these. Actually, there's 4 graphing. And this is the first problem out for the quiz. 1n squared plus 12n plus 27. Because a was 1, we need to figure out what multiplied to make 27. This is why I gave you that little sheet. And you should have gotten 1 and 27, 3 and 9. And now they needed to add to make 12. So n plus 3 and n plus 9. That's factoring, but now we want to solve. So we want to know when this equation, when the y is equal to 0. Now you should be writing this on the back of your paper. So it went from standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, into intercept form, and so we could actually have just graphed it. We already know that it's going to open up because a is 1, and we know it's going to cross at -3 and -9, the opposite of what's in parentheses. Those are my solutions. Where the graph crosses the x-axis is considered a solution, okay? But how could you do it without graphing? The step is to set the little equations equal to 0 and solve. We want to know what x value or what n value would we need on here to have the y be 0. And so we'd -3 from both sides, and we get a -3. That's this one right here, -3, 0. And -9 from both sides, and we get a -9. That's this one right here. So that's one way to solve these. I'm going to say that again. So now we're going to try it by completing the square. We still start out with the standard formula, okay, but we rewrite it with the space. I only do these if they already don't have an x term. If they're already in squared form, that's the only time I do this. But they want us to start. This one did have an x term. So remember, step 1 is to add a space. This is what we were doing with Optimus quilts. Step 2 is to take half the middle number. Half the middle number is +6. So I know that whatever I do, this part right here is going to factor into half the middle number, n plus 6 squared. And then I square the middle number. 6 squared is 36. So I'm going to add 36 here and subtract 36 here. All of you aced this quiz in quarter 2, but then you forgot. So again, by doing that, this becomes n plus 6 squared. And then this, 27 minus 36 is -9. And it's an equation, so it's equal to 0. So we went from standard form to vertex form, which means if I wanted to, I know that this graph is going to have a vertex at -6, -9, because it's in vertex form. But I really want to know when y is 0. So now I can complete the square. I set y equal to 0, and the steps say get the squared thing all by itself. Okay? So this is homework 3.5. So you add 9 to both sides, and the squared thing would be all by itself. And then how do you get rid of a square? You take the square root and add plus or minus. And the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. Since the square root turns into a nice number, we can keep going. We have 2 full equations. We have n plus 6 equals 3 and n minus 6 equals 3, both of which I solved. So here's the plus version. Here's the minus version. both of which I solved, and sure enough, I got the same answers, -3 and -9. Completing this using the quadratic formula, you have to identify A, B, and C. In this case, we know our A is 1, our B is 12, and our C is 27. Remember, they're just the numbers in front of the variables and then the constant. And so then we have to plug them in. Again, I highly suggest that you just write the equation blank and then plug it in. So B was 12. Notice that I have the parentheses around it. A was 1, C was 27, and A was 1 again. I would write the black part, write the outline, and then plug in the numbers. Then I am going to take this yellow part and put it in my calculator. I'm just letting people get caught up while the calculator pulls up. I just try to watch. When the pencils stop moving, that's when I go on. So, all right. So then you're going to put this yellow part in your calculator exactly like it's written, parenthesis 12. Please put the parentheses around the first B. -4 times 1. The 4 is always in there. It's just built into the formula. Times 27. And I got 36, a perfect square. On the first homework, 3.6 part 2, you should always get a perfect square. So then it became this. So there's the 36. And now I put the square root of 36 in my calculator. And luckily it's a nice number, 6. So I really have two equations. -12 plus 6 divided by 2. And that's from this plus right here. Okay, and I also have -12 minus 6 divided by 2. Then in your calculator, you literally want to do the top first. -12 plus 6, and you would get 6. Divide that by 2, and you get -3. And then with the bottom, -12 minus 6, I get -18. And divide that by 2, and there's my -9. The answers will always match each other. The idea is, can you do it with the different versions?